Sure would be.
I think it's also interesting here, it seems as though Abram is conscious of not having any one to pass his heredity to. I mean, he's actually asking God
Right.
for a descendant here.
Give me an heir.
Or at least to clarify what he means by descendants.
Right.
So he's 75 years of age, and maybe he's conscious, well, what am I supposed to do with all this stuff I'm supposed to do?
Yeah. Say all this.
I'm just noticing, didn't we say Abram was 75 when he was leaving his family?
Yep. We went through a lot so far, ain't we?
Lot happened in that year.
He was just getting started in his life. Really.
At 75 years old. And he lived till what,
Different time.
175? Is that right? He lived to be 175?
I used to know that.
Yep.
He died at 175?
Yep.
He was just getting started.
So we got 100 years that we're gonna go through. I can't imagine. Cannot imagine.
He had great trust in God to just set out and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even have the history that we have. He just,
Yeah.
he didn't.
God told him, he went. Do we have that kind of faith? So going on, he enters into a blood covenant with God, Genesis chapter 15, verse 7. Then he said to him, I am the Lord, whom brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, shall I know that I will inherit it? So he said to him, bring a 3-year-old heifer, and a 3-year-old female goat, and a 3-year-old ram, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. Then he brought all these things to him, and cut them in two, down the middle, and placed each piece opposite of each other. That he did not cut the birds in two. And when the vultures came to the carcass, Abraham drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And behold, horror, a great darkness fell upon him. So we've got these animals cut apart, laying each side. We're going to see here in a minute what happens. It says in a dream, God reveals himself to him and his descendants that will serve him in a foreign land for 400 years and then depart with great substance. Verse 12. Now when the sun went down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and behold, a horror, a great darkness fell upon him. And then he said to him, Abram, know certain that your descendants will be strangers in the land that it is not theirs, and will serve them, and they will afflict them 400 years. And also the nations they serve I will judge. Afterwards they shall bring out great possessions. Now as for you, you go to your fathers in peace, and you shall be buried at a good old age. But in the 14th generation shall return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. And it has come to pass that when the sun went down, it was dark, but behold, there appeared a smoking oven and a burning torch that passed between the pieces of the sacrifice. Abram done his part. He cut the animals apart. And then God went through there as a pledge, if you want to call it that. Covenant, I guess you would call it. Covenant. But they're going to be foreigners in a foreign land for 400 years. They're going to have great possessions. He's now given the boundaries of the land, verses 18 through 21. On the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants I have given this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, to the river Euphrates, to the Kenites, to the Kizanites, to the Canaanites, to the Hezonites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites. Sounds like it's a pretty good piece of land right there. I don't know how big that is, but seems like it's pretty good size. Talk about Hagar, the Egyptian bondwoman that they have Abram goes in and has a child with at the advice of Sarah. We'll read that 1 through 3, verse 16, chapter 16. I think we're going to wrap it up there. Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, had bore him no children, and she had an Egyptian maidservant whose name was Hagar. So Sarah said, Abram, see, the Lord has restrained me from bearing children. Please go into my maiden, and perhaps I shall obtain a child by her. And Abram heeded her voice. Then Sarah's, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And Abraham dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. So now we have 2 wives, correct? That's Sarah, and then we got Hagar. And we'll find out after Sarah dies, he marries again and has more children. So
And it's 85 or 86 now.
I would say, yep. When Terah moved them all out of Ur, they was about 200 years old. And Abraham's father died when he was 205, so he didn't live very long out of that land. So, anyhow, we'll start there next week, good Lord willing.